reflective against the concrete. He pressed the brake a little too hard. The Chevy's tires gave off a half-second shriek. Gone in an instant, but enough to momentarily mortify him. "Shit," he whispered, shooting a look at his side-view mirror. The kids had paused in their antics, staring at the pickup that had come to a dead stop in the middle of their street. Suddenly he realized just how out of place he was. His Chevy was a relic. It belonged in a junkyard far more than it did on the road. His windows were rolled down, his rock music turned up way too loud. He jammed the volume knob against the stereo console, the music replaced by the kids' laughter and the occasional bark of that smash-faced dog. Easing his truck along the curb, he stared at the house just outside his window. It was gorgeous, like a gingerbread house pulled straight from a fairy tale. This one had a white picket fence as well, rose bushes bursting with bright red blooms, matching hydrangeas, heavy with blossoms, dangled from pots that hung beneath the eaves of the porch. A wind chime shivered in the breeze, small rounds of Capiz shell sparkling in the sun. A hammock stretched across the right side of the patio. Andrew exhaled a slow breath and reached for the door handle, stopping short when his attention paused on the house next door. He had been so dazzled by the residence in front of him that he hardly noticed the one directly beside it, a dwelling that, much like his truck, simply didn't belong. It was set back from the street more than the others, ashamed of itself. But it seemed inevitable. Every neighborhood had a sore thumb. It was as though all of Magnolia Lane was filmed in brilliant color, but this sad little house existed in dreary monochrome. Its gutters sagged in a frown. The screen door hung at an awkward angle, like a waterlogged Band-Aid trying to hang on with all its might. There was no doubt that the next storm would tear it from its hinges, sending it tumbling down the street into someone's award-winning garden. Drew couldn't help but feel sorry for it. Being an outsider was never easy. He pushed the driver's door open to the cool, early evening air, its metallic whine cutting through the murmur of a tranquil, tree-lined suburbia. This was a world apart from the street he grew up on. Less than 5 miles away, Cedar Street was desolate and lonely, snatched out of one of the 7 circles of hell and thrown onto the flat Kansas landscape. The trees that existed there were sparse, exposing old houses to a relentless prairie wind. The ones that had survived the storms were husks of what they had once been, stripped of their branches, left dead in the ground by tornadoes that had done their damnedest to wipe that street off the map. He inhaled the scent of lilacs and honeysuckle before grabbing a box from the bed of his truck, then began his trek toward the white picket gate. Balancing the box on his knee, he fumbled with the latch, blinking when he saw a silhouette move past the front window. That was when he noticed the house number tacked next to the door. Drew took a step back, placed the moving box down on the sidewalk, and fished the scrap piece of paper out of his back pocket. The number 668 didn't look right. And that's what the door of the fairy tale house declared. He nearly laughed when he realized it, his stomach turning behind the faded cotton of his Nirvana t-shirt. This wasn't Mickey Fitch's house. Mickey's was the sad monstrosity next door. Disappointment bloomed into blighted hope. He had been stupid to think it would have been so easy. Nobody simply walked into paradise. Drew narrowed his eyes, plucked his box off the ground, and marched down the sidewalk toward the sulking home next door. He had spent a good portion of his summers fixing up the house on Cedar Street. It, too, was a sad sight. If he could keep that old lean-to upright, he sure as hell could resurrect this place. All it needed was the straightening of gutters and a fresh coat of paint. Magnolia Lane was handing Drew his own private metaphor. His life was a mess, and he was here to fix it. Reaching the house, he pressed the box between the wall and his chest, balancing it on a raised knee before reaching for the bell. Before his finger hit the button, he reeled back, staring at the fat spider that sat beside the glowing button. It sat there, illuminated from behind, as if giving